Good morning, everybody. Enter the stars. Welcome to the show. I wanted to open up today's show with Tropical Storm Janus. And I wanted to give a special thank you to Jim, who passed this along to me because I wouldn't have seen this because I don't just go searching for Janus. But this is very timely because this is everything we've been talking about on this channel for the past several months. Now, I know other people have compared Trump to Janus, but we went on our own journey to realize all of this. And this is Tropical Storm Janus, and they're calling it a medicane. Isn't that weird? Now, it's, of course, the Mediterranean Sea, but it's also, to me, sounds like medical. So we got these two elements of what is happening right now. This whole medical push to VC the entire world, dovetailed in with Janus. Now let's get into the rest of today's show. This won't be a long show. I caught wind of this story on Dabu's channel a few days ago, and I decided to dig a little bit deeper because there is this author who, whoops, I don't think I have everything plugged in the way I'm supposed to. Hold on. Something told me to check. I'm wondering if you guys even heard the first part of the show. You probably did, but the sound was probably not as good. There we go. All right, we should be good to go now. Let's check this out. Make sure testing. Okay, we're good. So, in case you didn't hear the first part of the show, I was just showing you Tropical Storm Janus. And they're calling this a medicane, which is weird because this is dovetailing in with this whole medical push to VC the world and all of the stuff that we've talked about Janus on this channel. So why would they name this tropical storm Janus? So this is going on in the Mediterranean Sea, or went on in the Mediterranean Sea just a couple days ago on the 16th of September. So now we'll get into today's show. Sorry for the hiccup there in the beginning. I just forgot to plug a cord in. Happens. And what happened was 88 years ago, a man, an author that was born on the 88th day of the year, wrote this creepy book about a masked society with no individuality. Now here's the author here, and we'll get into this story in a minute. Ernst Jünger, and he was born on March 29th. That's the 88th day of the year. And he wrote this book called The Worker. Now, what's this Worker book about? Well, let's read about what The Worker is about in this article here. It says here, author of dystopian classics predicted the use of face masks to enforce conformity 70 years ago. No, I think that's 88 years ago. 1932 is when the book came out. And so this title is obviously wrong. Respected German author Ernst Jünger predicted the ubiquitousness of face masks to enforce conformity and uniformity in dystopian future society in a novel called The Worker. Is published nearly 90 years ago. It's actually 88 years ago. And it says, with face masks now becoming a mandatory part of the new normal, enforcement measures to make people wear them by both agents of the state and members of the general public are becoming more dehumanizing and draconian. The minute you force someone to do this, you fall under this draconian and dehumanizing world, which is what we're living in now. So let's get into this Orwellian book that published 88 years ago. The uniformity of the new age is symbolized by the sudden proliferation of the mask in contemporary society. It represents another stage in the degradation of the individual that became explicit in the first WW. So, classes of people being masked to subdue their individuality. And it's interesting that these people are the workers, which is exactly what's happening to us right now. Now I went in and found these writings in this PDF file, or this may be I guess you could call it an analysis of the writings. But I went through here. This is a huge document, 443 pages, and I'm not going to belabor you searching through this. I pretty much just pulled up the excerpts from this in Google Translate to show you what some of these passages were saying in the book regarding masks. Now, what we're about to read here might be troubling to some people and confusing to others. I mean, how can it be that we're living out a novel that was written 88 years ago? And others of you are going to be in denial. You're going to think this is all just coincidence. But here's what's happening. The entire plan for the history of the world was written out a long time ago. There is a spirit at the head of how the world is playing out. And of course, God is countering that with his will, but in the end, it's judgment time. So, if you want to allow yourself to be deceived, God will let that happen. But if you have faith and love and you do what God says, then you will take a different path. And that's what all of this is about. So let's read some of these excerpts. Aesthetic dimensions of the essay. The notion of life completely in shape bring indicates the aesthetic conception of Jünger's essay. They're talking about his book. Below is to understand more than a discussion of the art forms, those of civil society and the new working state. That's all of us. To be designed is appropriate in each case are. Now, some of this is backwards because it's being translated from German. The concepts of form and formation are more comprehensive and integral in Jünger's essay. On the one hand, they relate to lifestyle, physiognomy, and figure of the individual who takes the form of the worker. And on the other hand, face, the surface of the world changed by the figure of the worker. The theming of I don't know how to say that word, face and figure, illustrates Jünger's interest in issues of perception that he, with contemporaries like Croucher and Benjamin, share. The main characteristics of the form-related change of the individual is the process of a comprehensive leveling. What that is making everybody equal, making everybody the same, taking away their individuality. Of the bourgeois individual. Firstly, it manifests itself in the uniforms of clothing. So what have we been doing in society over the last millennia? Every person in every different role has a uniform, right? Cops have their own uniform. Different workers of different types have their own uniform. It goes on in professional activities that are more and more in an anonymous sense. See this? Anonymous. They want you anonymous, so they put a mask on you. Second, in an alignment of bodies, so they want to align all our bodies to one form by the requirements of the work, to also include hygiene, sport, physical culture, and training, are trained according to plan, in which the gender specific begin to grind down differences. See, this is all about flattening the curve, right? They love to use that term as we were going through all this, and really it was about flattening your personality with a mask. And finally, it says, and thirdly, in the standardization of facial expression, posture, and gestures that lead to mask-like rigidity of the physiognomic appearance. Jünger's remarks on their importance of mask, which under inclusion of sport specify the term organic construction, the mask-like rigidity of the physical physiognomy, merges, I'm just going to call it PG, with the mask as a technical one, accessories to a mask-like. So what they're saying here is they want you to have a mask on to take away your individuality. that the characterizes the organic, technical, overall appearance of the working person in the present. Concrete visual materials for this profound change in the external appearance, which can be traced back to an increase in the factual. There's more. That's just one passage. This part talks about for disciples. It is theatrical acting is a deeply civic affair because it is normative on the individual character. And from the one-time execution, the here and now, the performance is determined. In contrast, is the film normatively related to the typical, not on the individual character mask, but on the mask-like character of a whole time. That a film actor's untypical way is embodied in terms of aesthetics, the synchronous playback of film, copies that cannot be subordinated to any original in terms of value. So again, now they're talking about theater, and they're dovetailing in the some theater theory here in terms of the role of masks in theater. There's a few more excerpts from The Worker. If you're just joining the show, 88 years ago, a man born on the 88th day of the year, Ernst Jünger. This part says the disciples' reception in exile, the reception in German-speaking exile, is not less indecisive about disciples than in Germany after 1933. However, the number of weighty authors who commented on Jünger low. Collection of an overall appreciation of Ernst Jünger. Remarkably, Golo wanted man, the warlike philosopher Ernst Jünger. Call him a warlike philosopher. In the crowd of the love of servants of fascism and hasty deduction of the absolute state, don't count the first glance. It differs from them through independence, originality of observation, conciseness, and also become disciples through the recent development confirmed. The outer, the worker shows himself to be volcanic, technical, certain landscape, and the typically characterized mask-like human face. The individual of the citizen is missing. Golo observes man. In addition to methodological criticism, man Jünger, especially as a romantic, which is evident in the enthusiasm for the war. Jünger is an industrial aesthete, an atrocity aesthete, a snob of daily observation. So, apparently, according to history, Jünger was opposed to the NIZIs, okay? So, that's to put things in context. Here he is here. He was a proliferative author. His first book was Storm of Steel. Son of a successful businessman and chemist, he rebelled against an affluent upbringing and sought adventure before running away briefly to serve in the French Foreign Legion, an illegal act. But he escaped persecution in Germany due to his father's efforts. So, this is the story of how they have taken away our individuality. And as I said at the beginning of the show, many people will be in denial about this. They'll think that this is just coincidence. But believe it, this is part of a much larger plan. Now, thanks to those of you that showed up to the show this morning, and sorry for the hiccup. We'll be back on here live Monday morning. Got a couple shows scheduled already. We're going to be talking about the plight of small businesses in America. Walk down the street and you will see a bunch of empty businesses that will probably never come back. And we're not just talking about small businesses. We're talking about franchises as well. Restaurant industry was hit particularly hard. Storefronts, there's malls closing. We're going to cover all that next week. I've also got some new information on Sol Invictus and Mithra. We're going to dig into that And this is the American cult. This is what America was founded on. It's a knockoff of Christianity. It is not true Christianity. And I'm going to show that to you. And our entire country was based off of it. And that's why we have the Statue of Liberty. S-O-L. Statue of Liberty. Sol. It's a god. It's a Roman god. Sol Invictus. Born on Christmas Day. So we're going to get into all that next week. And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Take care and be safe, everybody.